From cryptids to conspiracy theories, the Appalachian Mountains have been a constant conversation within the horror community, and today I am going to go over why that might be. Before I get into it though, I just want to very quickly say, do consider subscribing. I make all types of content. I do reactions and reviews sometimes, and true crime, so there's something for everybody. Now, in today's video, if I seem a little tired, it's because I am. It's because I am tired. I was up early today. I almost canceled this video because just how tired I am. Almost took a nap instead. I was just gonna move it to Saturday. But instead of doing that and being a lazy bitch, I decided to just sit down and record. So that's what I am gonna attempt to do right now. I am going to break this video down into cryptids and then conspiracy theories and just more Appalachian Mountain horror stuff, because this has been a constant topic within the horror community, as I said in the beginning. Do I agree with it? But I figured I would talk about it just cause. First, I'm gonna start with the Mothman. The first sighting of said Mothman was on the night of November 15th, 1966, around midnight. Two couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry and Stephen Murray Millette, reportedly encountered a man-sized, bird-like creature on 3 separate occasions in Clifton F. McClintock, I may be butchering that, wildlife management area, locally known as the TNT area. Steve and Roger described the thing as being about 6 or 7 6 or 7 feet tall, having a wingspan of 10 feet, and red eyes about 2 inches in diameter and 6 inches apart. It was like a man with wings, Millette said. It wasn't like anything you'd see on TV or in a monster movie. Both couples claimed that it flew about 100 miles an hour and would hover above their car where they would hear its wings flap. When the police were called, they could not find anything that resembled the Mothman. The second sighting was on November 18th, a couple days after the first sighting. 2 volunteer firemen, Captain Paul Yoder and Benjamin Enox, said that they saw a very large bird with bright eyes, with large red eyes. Dr. Robert L. Smith, Associate Professor of Wildlife Biology at WVU, said the descriptions matched the sandhill crane, the second largest American crane, which stands almost as high as a man and has a wingspan of more than 7 feet. He said the red eyes could be the large circles of reddish flesh around the crane's eyes, and Smith said the bird apparently wandered out of its normal migration route. We have a debunking. It was not the Mothman. Other sightings include, within 48 hours of the initial sighting, Newell Partridge reported his German Shepherd howling at something unseen in the fields behind his home. When Partridge stepped outside with a flashlight, the beam illuminated 2 red circles shining back from the tree line. His dog charged towards them and never returned. In December, waitress Faye Dewitt saw it perched on the roof of the Mason County Courthouse. Electrical disturbances preceded each counter, with televisions displaying sudden static and car radios emitting garbled transmissions. On December 15th, 1967, exactly 13 months after the first sighting, Point Pleasant's Silver Bridge collapsed during evening rush hour, resulting in 46 cars being plunged into the freezing Ohio River. An investigation would later determine a single eye bar in the suspension chain failed. But survivors/witnesses reported seeing the Mothman circling the bridge's towers in the weeks before the disaster. Toll collector William Needham stated to have seen something large and dark fly parallel to the bridge moments before the collapse. The legend of the Mothman has attracted tourists to Point Pleasant, where they can visit the Mothman Museum, which has a 12-foot tall metallic statue of the cryptid right in front of it. I wouldn't want to go there. Okay. Not a big fan of the Mothman. I have beef with the Mothman, actually. You should go watch my Ranking Cryptids video. I think I threatened its life a couple times in that video. The museum has newspaper clippings, handwritten police reports from the original Mothman eyewitnesses documenting what they experienced, a life-size Mothman replica, souvenirs, and video footage of the Silver Bridge disaster. Next, we are going to cover the Flatwoods Monster. Other names known as the Braxton County Monster, Braxy. Braxy's cute. Phantom of the Flatwoods, and the Flatwoods Monster. The first sighting was on September 12th, 1952, in the town of Flatwoods. Edward May, Freddie May, Neil Nunley, and Tommy Heyer were playing on the lawn of the Flatwoods Elementary School when they saw a bright light fly across the sky and crash onto a hillside of G. Bailey Fisher's farm. The boys ran to see what happened, but stopped by the May's house first, since it was on the way there, to tell their mother, Kathleen May, what they had seen. She called on National Guardsman Eugene Lemon and the family dog Richie to accompany her and the boys to the crash site. Why the fuck does your dog need to go, dude? Why does your dog need to tag along? At the crash site, the group saw a pulsing red light. Lemon shined his flashlight up the hill, and the group saw what they would describe as a levitating, 10-foot-tall creature with glowing orange eyes that sat in a spade-shaped head, wearing a dark metal dress, whose hands were twisted and clawed. The creature would then hiss and glide towards the group, who, at the sight of this, ran away, as you should. As you should, actually. Members of the group suffered from throat irritation, vomiting, and nausea for days. May and Lemon reported the incident to local authorities, who searched the area that night and claimed to find nothing. A possible sighting before the first one, reported by Miss Audra Harper not long before the sighting on Fisher's farm. Harper claims to have seen the monster while walking through the woods with a friend near her home near the town of Heaters, 5 miles north of Flatwoods. Harper and her friend were walking to a nearby store through the forest due to the conditions of the road outside of her property. Half a mile into their trip, they noticed a ball of fire on one of the hills they were passing. Initially dismissing it, Harper glanced back and saw that the fire had disappeared, and in its place stood the tall, dark silhouette of a man-shaped figure. At the sight of this, Harper and her friend ran. The second sighting, so the sighting after the very first one I talked about. The day after the September 12th incident in Flatwoods, another sighting occurred near Strange Creek, about 20 miles south of Flatwoods. George and Edith Snatowski and their 18-month-old son were driving through the rural area between Clay and Braxton County on Route 4 when their car suddenly died. George had attempted to restart the car but had no luck in doing so. With night having fallen, they began to smell sulfur when a strange bright light filled darkness, and they saw that same monster. Christ. Not my camera falling, scaring the absolute living shit out of me. They saw that same monster hovering in front of their car before it dragged its hand across the hood of the car and drifted away into the woods. The only difference between the description of this monster and previous ones was that its head was reportedly scaly and bony, and there appears to be no new sightings of the monster since then, of the Flatwoods Monster. If my screen keeps getting darker, I do apologize. It's because night is falling outside in beautiful South Florida right now, so nothing I can do about that. I'm gonna keep checking OBS to make sure that my, everything isn't falling apart and that you can still see my face. Right now we should be good, but my ring light is saving the situation a little bit. Next, we have the knot deer. This is the most popular one because this falls right in line with mimics and skinwalkers and wendigos. Wendigos are really fun and exciting. The knot deer is a creature from modern Appalachian folklore whose growing popularity began in 2019 on social media from those who came into contact with them. The knot deer is said to inhabit the Appalachian Mountains, with the majority of their sightings in Tennessee. They're distinct from wendigos and skinwalkers due to their presence in different regions. Wendigos are from the Algonquian legend and are therefore tied to the land of Canada and the northern United States. Skinwalkers are creatures from the Navajo culture and are therefore tied to the land of the southwestern United States. There appears to be no connection between the not deer and indigenous folklore like there is with wendigos and skinwalkers. Their behavior and general appearance is noticeably different from that of a regular deer. They've been seen to walk on their hind legs, which are disproportionate to the rest of their body, having more joints than they're supposed to. Oh, I hate the not deer. I hate talking about it, I hate looking at it, I hate watching videos about it. It scares me. When walking on all fours, they have difficulty doing so, with their gait closely resembling that of a newborn fawn. Forward-facing predator eyes, not on the sides of their head like deers do. They're known to not run away when approached, nor are they overtly aggressive towards humans, but will attack if provoked, exhibiting self-harming behavior, such as bashing their heads against solid objects, often leaving the fur from the impacted area covered in blood. What the hell? There's a real explanation for why deer have been seen to act in this manner. Chronic wasting disease, CWD, also known as the zombie deer disease, whose symptoms closely resemble the behavior of the not deer. Despite this, people have continued to share their encounters with these creatures. I'm gonna keep checking behind me, by the way. I'm gonna turn the lights on real quick. My room should brighten up a little bit. Yeah, it's a little less dark. Okay, beautiful and cool. A encounter from a Reddit user recalls, "Then I saw it. The term of almost deer is really fitting, but not quite accurate. It was like a deer that someone who had never seen a deer drew, but only after someone else described it to them. It stood on the left side of the road mountainside, and I saw the eyes long before the headlights shone it fully. It was big, easily the biggest I've ever seen, and the lack of any horns that time in the year suggested that it was a doe. The head was almost bovine in shape, but fixed to a deer's frame. The legs seemed too big in proportion to the body, think maned wolf proportions, and the body was extremely barrel-chested. I've always been creeped out by malformed wildlife, and this was no exception. Unfortunately, I had to get it to move or risk passing within a few feet of it. I was not traveling another 30 plus miles up the road in the other direction to leave through another gate in the middle of the night, and I wasn't getting close to it. Dangers of it, spooking and running into the side of my cruiser side, I didn't want to get near it at all. Stopping and putting my feet down about 30 inches away from it, I tried to frighten it away. I flashed my beams down to low and back to high. Nothing. I revved the engine, nothing. I honked the considerable horn, not resting the bike on the kick side. I left it idling and hopped off. I yelled at the thing, and it still didn't budge, so I started to the side of the road to grab something to toss near the deer thing, helping to spook it away. As soon as I crossed into the other lane, it rose up onto its hind legs. I froze, putting my hand on my gun. I wasn't about to get charged by an angry, confused, malformed doe. It took two jerky, unnatural steps towards the center of the lane on two legs and froze again, staring directly at me. It suddenly shook its head wildly like a dog with a toy, took another short step, then hopped on two legs several times until it disappeared into the darkness of the right side of the road. I stepped back to the bike, mounted it, kicked it up the kickstand, and turned the light towards the side of the road. On that side, there was a sheer drop off about 75 to 80 degrees compared to the roadway, and the fucking thing's head was just peeking over the edge, still looking at me. The drop off was about 40 to 50 inches, so there's no way it was standing at the base of the mountainside. I cracked the throttle and beat the hell out of there. Road wildlife be damned. I never went back up on Skyline Drive at night alone after that. One time was enough. Let's get a gun. Let's see how to firearm, okay? Next, we are going to move on to the kinds of hauntings that go down in the Appalachian Mountains. So first, I am starting with the Bell Witch haunting. In the early 1800s, John Bell would move his family from North Carolina to the Red River community, present-day Adams, Tennessee, and Robertson County. Bell would purchase some land as well as a large house for his family, and he would continue to buy more land, eventually acquiring a total of 328 acres, from which he cleared a number of fields for farming. Bell would also become an elder of the Red River Baptist Church. In 1817, Bell noticed a strange animal out in the field which had the body of a dog and the head of a rabbit. He shot at this creature, but it disappeared. That same evening, the Bell began to hear strange noises, beating sounds against the outside walls of their home, creaking and groaning, and scratching out the windows. Those noises would increase in frequency and force each night, with Bell and his sons hurrying outside to catch whoever or whatever was making them, but always returned empty-handed. The types of noises the family would claim to hear would include the sound of chains being dragged on the floor, dogs fighting, as well as faint whispering voices, which were too weak to understand, but sounded like an old woman singing hymns. Sorry, I got scared. In the weeks that followed, the bell chant the Bell children began waking up frightened, complaining that rats were gnawing at their bedposts, and would complain about having their bed covers pulled from them as well as their pillows tossed onto the floor by an unseen entity. Dude, what the fuck? The entity behind the haunting would come to be known as the Bell Witch. From this point on, the haunting would manifest itself in more violent ways, with the phenomena being centered on John Bell and his daughter Betsy Bell. The family felt as though they were being slapped, pinched, and stuck with pins by the witch. Betsy would be left with welts and handprints on her hands and body. The children would be pulled from their bed. The witch would vow to kill John Bell, and John Bell would confide in his friend James Johnson about the witch. James and his wife, Jane Marvelyn Greer, would spend a night with the Bells and experience these same disturbances. Their bed covers were yanked off. James was slapped. James exclaimed out loud in frustration, "In the name of the Lord, who are you and what do you want?" The next morning, James would call and say the cause of the Bell's trouble was an evil spirit, the kind the Bible talks about. The witch's voice strengthened over time and became loud and unmistakable. It insulted John Bell, sang hymns, quoted scripture, carried on intelligent conversation, and once even quoted word for word 2 sermons that were preached at the same time on the same day, 13 miles apart. By the fall of 1820, John Bell's health began to decline and was confined to his house. The witch would continue to attack John Bell, giving him the nickname Old Jack Bell, and the witch would remove his shoes while he walked, slapped his face when he recovered from seizures, and would curse and chastise him. On the morning of December 20th, 1820, John Bell would die after having slipped into a coma the day before. Immediately after his death, his family found a vial of strange black liquid in the cupboard. John Bell Jr. would put 2 drops of the liquid onto their cat's tongue, and the cat jumped up into the air, rolled over midair, and was dead when it hit the floor. Why are the animals always catching a stray? Why the cat? What the fuck? What did the cat do? The witch then announced, "I gave old Jack a big dose of that last night, which fixed him." And John Jr. then threw the vial into the fireplace, where it burst into a bright blue flame and shot up the chimney. The witch would reportedly be in attendance at John Bell's funeral, laughing and singing a song about brandy until the last mourner left the graveyard. Betsy Bell would continue to be harassed by the witch to the point where she had to call off her engagement on Easter Monday of 1821 due to the witch's constant presence and disruptions. In April of 1821, shortly after Betsy called off her engagement, the witch visited John Bell's widow, Lucy Bell, and told her that she was leaving, but would return in 7 years. The witch returned in 1828 and spoke to John Bell Jr. about the origin of life, civilization's Christianity, and the need for a major spiritual reawakening. After 3 weeks, the witch would leave once again, promising to visit John Bell's most direct descendant in 107 years, 1935. The closest living direct descendant at the time was Nashville neurologist Dr. Charles Bailey Bell. In 1934, in anticipation of the 1935 reunion, Dr. Bell published The Bell Witch, a Mysterious Spirit, which catalogs the notes taken by his father, Dr. Joel Thomas Bell, the son of John Bell Jr. of the 1828 return. Nothing was reported to have happened in 1935, so the witch, left. In 1894, Martin V. Ingram published an authenticated history of the Bell Witch, with his main source being the written account, a diary of the haunting by Richard Williams Bell, the son of John Bell, titled Our Family's Troubles. This was the first instance of the story of the entire haunting being printed and sold to the public. There are doubts as to the veracity. I did very well in English in high school, okay? Of Ingram's book. His main source was Richard's diary. Richard was about 6 years old when the hauntings happened and then waited until 1846 before he wrote down the events. Ingram says that in 1857, Richard gave the diary to his son, Alan Bell, who then gave the diary to Ingram with instructions to keep it private until the deaths of the immediate family. They died around 1880, which is when Ingram began writing his book. By this point, anybody with first or second-hand knowledge was dead. There also appears to be no record of the diary, nor did Ingram say what came of it. Ingram includes a story of then Major General Andrew Jackson and a small party of soldiers visiting the Bell Farm where they were also attacked. I have a bug flying around and it is pissing me off, okay? Today, the family that currently owns the site of the original Bell family farm offers tours of the property and a replica of the Bell House, which has a few original artifacts, while they share the stories associated with the Bell bitch. And last but not least, we are going to talk about the National Radio Quiet Zone in the Appalachian Mountains. So we are now going to be talking about a few conspiracies surrounding the Appalachian Mountains. The National Radio Quiet Zone is a 13,000 square mile region centered between Green Bank and Sugar Grove, West Virginia, where radio transmissions, such as those used in cell phones, wireless networks, and television broadcasting, are restricted/regulated by the federal government. The FCC established the NRQZ to protect sensitive equipment at two major facilities from man-made radio frequency interference. National Radio Astronomy Observatory, NRAO, Green Bank Observatory, / Green Bank Observatory, GBO, Green Bank, West Virginia. The NRAO was the original operator of the Robert C. Byrd Green Bank Telescope up until September 30th, 2016. Since October 1st, 2016, the GBT has been operated by the GBO. So, the Green Bank Telescope, I think that's what it's called, has been operated by the Green Bank Observatory since October 1st, 2016. The GBT is the world's largest fully steerable radio telescope per the Britannica. A radio telescope is an astronomical instrument consisting of a radio receiver and an antenna system that is used to detect radio frequency radiation. Next, we're going to talk about the Sugar Grove site. The Sugar Grove site is divided into two distinct bases. A lower base, operated by the U.S. Navy up until its closure in 2015, and employed the local townsfolk and was the de facto community center up until 9/11, after which many areas previously open to the public, such as the gym and its recreational areas, were sealed up. Statement from a local: I didn't play sports in high school. I would go to the Navy base and play sports. They had a roller skating rink on the weekends, and it was just a place where you could go hang out. That's where all the kids were. The upper base, operated by the NSA, the upper base is actually underground, and the initial goal of Sugar Grove was to monitor the Soviets at the start of the Cold War using satellite dishes aimed at the moon. But due to escalating costs, that plan was stopped. Despite this, the upper base was kept under the control and operation of the NSA and would later be exposed as being part of an international mass surveillance program, Echelon, and be given the codename Timberline. Stephen Kirksey, author of The Quiet Zone, had this to say about the two facilities that operate within the NRQZ. In Green Bank, it's about the science. In Sugar Grove, it's about the secret surveillance of all the texts and emails and phone calls we're doing every single day. Really, this isn't actually a conspiracy. This is more like, just us knowing that they're in our phones. What did I say in that one video? I forget which video, where I was like, they're in our phones. I'm always right. I am always right. Perry Felwalk, a former NSA analyst and the organization's first whistleblower, who revealed the existence of the NSA and its mass surveillance network, codename Echelon, in 1971. Echelon is a mass surveillance program operated by the 5 signatory states to the UK-USA. The UKASA Security Agreement. Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the UK and the United States, also known as the Five Eyes. Since his initial revelation, other investigative journalists have helped shine some more light on the extent of Echelon. Two major figures, James Bamford, American investigative journalist, and Duncan Campbell, British investigative journalist, was arrested for his efforts and subsequently tried in what became known as the ABC trial. Further investigation in the US for Further investigation into the Echelon revealed that 3 operational radio frequency intercept bases, that's a lot of words, existed in the US and its territories, but this would not be confirmed until Edward Snowden's, a former NSA intelligence contractor, expose, which led to his prosecution. In the documents leaked by Snowden, the Sugar Grove site, codenamed Timberline, is one of 3 interception bases in the US and its territories. There are multiple intercept stations in the US, and there are at least 16 around the world in the following countries: Brazil, Germany, India, Japan, Thailand, United States, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, Cyprus, Kenya, and Oman. Oh man. Timberline is paired with a listening station in England to intercept signals from satellites orbiting over the Atlantic Ocean, and per the Edward Snowden leaks in 2005, the NSA collected 1.8 million contact events, 500,000 mobile events, and 150,000 SMS events per day at Timberline. The NSA has had little to say about the information coming forward regarding the Echelon and Timberline. When asked for a comment on the site and being offered the opportunity to respond to the Snowden leaks, a NSA spokesperson said this in response: "The mission of Sugar Grove Research Station is to support communications research and develop for the Department of Defense. Timberline remains operational." That's a lot of talking. That's a lot of talking. Wow, now I'm bright. Holy shit, you can see every pore in my... Well, no, you can't because my webcam is too shit for that. And that is all we have for you tonight. Or today. As far as, what's happening in my life, I have gotten to the point where I need a job that pays. And this job doesn't pay at all. I make no money from YouTube, so I have to go get a actual 9 to 5. But I am still going to record and upload and all that stuff, so I'm gonna try to stay on schedule with my 3 uploads a week. If it becomes too much, I'm gonna switch to 2 uploads a week. But until then, I will see you Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. If my upload schedule does change, it's just gonna be Tuesdays and Thursdays and not Saturdays. Well, that is all that I have for you today. So, I will see you Saturday. And until then, be safe out there in the world and try to not get too bored without me.